Hey everybody, this is David coming to you today from Halong Bay in northern Vietnam, about 3 hours or so outside of Hanoi. And welcome to the end of week one in MSON 602. I hope you had a great first week. I sure enjoyed chatting with many of the new students. This week it gave me a great opportunity to get to know you a little bit better and hopefully explain some of the concepts behind the course, the degree program, and other things as well. Halong Bay is a beautiful place. It has these limestone formations that come up out of the water. You've probably seen them in photographs, seen them in James Bond movies, and in other things. It was beautiful navigating out here on the deck this morning as we came in. There really isn't a port here, so we had to drop anchor outside, and I'm just spending some time today before I go in to do some exploring. I wanted to make sure I had a chance to recap Lesson 1 for you and preview Lesson 2 for you. So as far as Lesson 1 recap is concerned, I appreciate your introductions that you had. As I mentioned before, those are very valuable for your fellow classmates as well as valuable for me to get to know you just a little bit better, because over the next few weeks, months, and classes, we will invariably get to know each other much better. And so I appreciate you getting to you putting that information down and sharing it with each other. Lesson 1, hopefully what I try to do is kind of mess you up a little bit out of the start. The video from Drew Dudley called Lollipop Moments was an interesting one to get really a perspective on leadership. One of the things you need to know about me, sometimes I do present material I don't necessarily agree with, but just to get people to think beyond what their current ideas are. But this video, I think, was important because it's an important foundational video that will help you begin to understand how you view and the lens through which you view leadership before we talk about servant leadership. And so I enjoyed the discussion post that you had on that one as well. The case study in the first lesson is not one that you will do throughout, but it's a case study about you. And what it really focused on is the moral compass that you have as it relates to different ideas, different concepts. And again, as I mentioned in my introduction, I like to do assessments early on with students because it really helps them, again, begin to think about the lens through which they view particular topics. And so I enjoyed reading those. As I mentioned before, rest assured, I do not share that information with anyone. Now, the one thing you do need to know is this particular case study can be written in first person because it's about you. But future case studies, make sure that you write all of those in third person. That's just much more professional from an overall writing styles perspective. So you'll see that I'm pretty detailed on my comments on your discussion boards, and I'm very detailed on my comments on your case studies. Make sure that you look in the grade book to see my comments on those, because that's how you and I will communicate. I will not send you an email back with the copy of your paper. You will find all of that information in the grade book. And as I mentioned, I like to use the grade book, the course platform, announcements as a one-stop shop for you so that you don't have to go to multiple places to find all the information that I want to communicate. All right, let's jump a little bit into Lesson 2 coming up. Lesson 2 begins with a discussion that talks about servant leadership in the workplace. We spend so much time in the workplace, so many hours a day, more than, quite frankly, we do anywhere else, that servant leadership in the workplace is an important concept. It's an important topic that we need to discuss. I have several videos in there that you'll see from a couple of key people on leadership. Those are in the videos section. And then in the discussion, I actually presented another video taken from one of the TED Talks on Rick Warren talking about leadership, and he briefly talks about servant leadership in that video as well. So I look forward to some very robust discussions as we try and navigate servant leadership in the workplace. Now, the next thing that I wanted to talk about, you'll have a memo exercise this week, and as I explained in the introduction, and I'll do it a little deeper here, memo exercises are really designed for you to get some experience in applying some of the concepts that you have in the course to real-life situations. And so we're making an assumption in this memo exercise that you are the head of an organization or a particular department, and you will be implementing a servant leadership model in that company or that department. And so what I want you to be able to do is, over a series of 3 memo exercises, I would like for you to communicate to people in your organization or your department different concepts as it relates to servant leadership. And again, these are not research papers, so you don't have sources or you don't cite different things in them. It's really equal to a interoffice memo that you may get at your current employment. And so what I want you to do is to phrase those in the language that your people can understand. And you know that better than I do. You know what type of language people in your organization will use, and that's what I want you to use in this. And so there'll be a series of 3 memo exercises. The first one talks about what is servant leadership. And so if you're going to be changing your organization to something, you need to define very clearly from your viewpoint, from the organization's viewpoint, what that change is all about. And so you need to define for people what is servant leadership, because many people will understand and have a lens through which they view leadership. But when you add that word servant in front of it, it adds a little bit of confusion. So you need to clearly identify for them what servant leadership is all about. And so that's what you will do. You will have a communication to them talking about our organization is moving in this particular direction, and that's all you'll do. You won't go to any, the whys and all the other components. Just introduce the concept. One of the biggest challenges that students have in this one is they try and do too much, and so their first memo actually is very long, and it includes many things. And one of the key philosophies in change management is you need to have frequent communication with people. And so if you give them all your information right out of the chute, sometimes they will forget it very quickly. And so this first one is simply the what of servant leadership. What is servant leadership? And then upcoming in subsequent memo exercises, you'll do the why. Why are we changing to a servant leadership model? And then the third memo exercise you will do is what's in it for me? And again, I've always found in change management exercises with organizations that I've led and been a part of, if people don't have a real grasp on what this means to them and what it can mean to them, then many times their ability to embrace that change has been reduced. So that's the memo exercise that you'll need to do in Lesson 2. And then finally in Lesson 2, you will present to me your course project outline. Now, remember, this course project is really about, and I try to organize these so that sometimes your memo exercise and your course project can go together because you're thinking about an organization adopting servant leadership, and that's what the course project's all about. I'm encouraging you to pick an organization of your choice and begin to implement a servant leadership model in that organization. Now, what you have to really understand in this entire course project is that you have to review the organization first, then you have to define what servant leadership is all about, then you need to compare and contrast the existing organization to one that is you're learning over the next few weeks has the criteria of a servant leadership organization, and out of that you'll have some recommendations that will come throughout your paper. Now, this course project outline is simply that. It's an outline. Don't overthink this. There is no narrative you need to put in this. It's simply an outline. And I've given you in doc sharing a sample that you can use, that you can take a look at. Now, obviously, I just don't want you to copy what I put in there, but take a look at it just from a format perspective, because, again, sometimes students I've found, they kind of have the lost art of outlines. I start any project that I have done for years with an outline, because I operate on the assumption that if I don't know where I'm going at the end and where I want to get to at the end, any road's going to take me there. And so I develop very thorough outlines. And think of these outlines simply as the headings that you will have in your paper. It'll be an introduction that will really introduce the purpose of the paper. Again, I don't want you to have any narrative there, just put introduction. And then company overview, the company that you've selected that you'll include there. Again, no narrative, just the company overview. And then you may have some subheadings and so on, all the way down through a conclusion and a reference page. Again, I've said this 4 times, but I'm going to say it 5 because I have students who will put narrative in here. Don't want any narrative. This is really your roadmap. It's really your outline. And the reason that I do that is it gives me an opportunity to help you say, okay, here are some things that I think you missed that you need to make sure you include in your course project. And then many times you'll have some other things that I can make some suggestions on as well. And so my hope is that as we go through these things, that your paper will be in really good shape out of the start and not something that you have to adjust and adapt at the end when I finally take a look at it. So that's why we have our course projects in 3 parts. Okay? Well, I hope you've had a good first week. Hope the second week will be equally as productive. And I look forward to any questions or comments that you have. Again, regardless of where I am in the world, I'm totally accessible. I've had great internet here, satellite internet here on the ship. And so just look forward to continuing to connect wherever we are. So just have a great week and have a wonderful week studying. Talk to you soon.